Mariana Budjeryn is a research associate with the Project on Managing the Atom. That's at the Harvard Kennedy School and Belfer Center. She joins me now from Cambridge, Massachusetts. You are Ukrainian yourself. So before we talk specifically about this attack and the fallout, as it were, how are you feeling at present, watching what is unfolding from the US?
Becky, I'm both very worried because my family, my mother is in Ukraine. She's in Western Ukraine, so she is as safe as anyone can be today in Ukraine. But we certainly don't know what the ultimate plan of Vladimir Putin is for my country. And I'm also incredibly angry. I'm outraged at the injustice and the unnecessary suffering caused by this war.
I think you echo many people's feelings around the world, and an awful lot of sympathy for Ukrainians at this point who are living through this. We've been talking about the Russians having seized the largest nuclear plant in Europe. Explain how dangerous their actions were overnight, if you will.
Becky, we must remember that in 2009, the IAEA, the nuclear watchdog, unanimously adopted a decision that any use of armed force or even a threat of armed force constitutes a violation of the UN Charter and a violation of international law. So this just tells you how far the Russian regime is willing to go in their resentment and their disdain for international law and for the rules of engagement in a conflict. Now, we might take some solace in the fact that to cause a major nuclear accident at a nuclear power plant today is not so easy. Several things would have to go wrong simultaneously for there to be a major radiation release into the environment. One of these things is that the confinement chamber that it protects a nuclear reactor core would have to be breached. These are quite robust structures. They're made of reinforced concrete, and they're designed to withstand both an explosion inside the reactor, right, and contain the release of that radioactive material into the atmosphere, and also to withstand the outside impact. Now, none of these confinement chambers have been designed with a view of withstanding a full-blown shelling or a missile attack or, this kind of intensive fighting. So we don't know at this point, this is unprecedented, how these confinement chambers would hold. But even if a confinement chamber is breached, there has to be another thing that goes wrong, and that has to be a meltdown of a reactor core. If you can imagine, it's a big pool with these fuel rods that contain enriched uranium, the radioactive material, and they're being constantly cooled by a supply of water. So the safe operation of a reactor core relies on the constant supply of that water that in turn relies on the pumps that pump it into the reactor core that in turn relies on the supply of electricity. There are backup electricity systems should something go wrong and the reactors should be disconnected from the main grid. Those are diesel generators. But again, in a full-blown conflict, in a full-blown war, even these backup systems risk being damaged. If these things happen, if the main electricity supply is damaged and the reactor core is compromised, there could be a meltdown, a fire, and then you have a release of radioactive plumes into the environment.
And that must be the concern at this point, because what we are seeing is a full-scale war emerging. That's what we're talking about right now. But your point being that these modern reactors have been, or these reactors have been modernized since the days of Chernobyl. So the sort of comparisons that some have made to the accident at Chernobyl is not something that we should be making comparables on at this stage. That is what you are explaining, but your concern is, it seems, that, as this war escalates, and we are certainly seeing no evidence that it is going to stop anytime soon, you are concerned that this could be very problematic going forward, correct?
That is correct. I'm concerned at the neglect and the willingness, the length that the Russian forces are willing to go to, and if they're willing to shell a nuclear power plant from a tank, we don't know if this is the limit of what they're willing to do. They have missiles, they have bombs, they have much more powerful weaponry. I would not exclude some kind of and a risk of sabotage that could be blamed on Ukrainians.
I'm going to have to stop you there because I need to get to the UN Security Council. I thank you very much indeed. Your analysis and insight is so important, and we will speak again. Thank you.